Welcome, dear friend. I know you watch this video to fall asleep, so before that, like, comment, and share this video. Also, where are you from and what time is it where you are from? As the evening approaches and your mind settles into stillness, prepare yourself for a journey that transcends time and space. Not a journey across maps and territories, but an inward expedition through layers of understanding you didn't know existed within you. For centuries, a particular teaching has been passed from teacher to student, whispered through temple halls and mountain monasteries, guiding seekers toward a truth so simple yet so profound that it rewires how you perceive every moment of existence. This teaching is not the exclusive property of any religion. It's not bound by culture or time or geography. It appears in different forms throughout human wisdom traditions because it describes something fundamental about how existence actually works. This isn't philosophy meant for intellectual debate or passive consumption in your spare time. This is wisdom meant to be lived, experienced, embodied in your daily existence. This is a teaching meant to transform how you move through the world. As your breathing slows and your body relaxes deeper into comfort, imagine yourself standing at the threshold of transformation. You're about to discover why the most enlightened people seem to smile at circumstances that would devastate ordinary minds. You're going to learn the secret that converts suffering into wisdom, obstacles into opportunities, and confusion into clarity. The Buddhist tradition preserves this teaching as one of its greatest treasures, yet it remains hidden in plain sight, waiting for those ready to truly see, waiting for those who recognize that something fundamental isn't working in their lives. Welcome. Your awakening to what you already are but haven't yet recognized begins now. Arrival at monastery. You open your eyes at dawn. The first thing you notice is silence. Not the absence of sound, but a quality of silence so complete it seems alive. Where you come from, silence doesn't exist like this. There are always hums, distant traffic, the persistent background noise of modern life. Here, in this mountain valley where the monastery has stood for 4 centuries, silence has its own presence, almost like a presence you can touch. Your feet touch cold stone floors as you step from the small guest quarters into the monastery courtyard. The stone is ancient, worn smooth by generations of footsteps passing over it during early mornings and late evenings. The air carries the scent of pine and something else you can't quite name, perhaps incense from dawn rituals already completed by monks moving through their daily rounds. You watch them now, these practitioners who have devoted their entire lives to understanding something you only glimpsed in books or documentaries. They move without hurrying, without apparent stress, each gesture containing purpose and awareness. They seem fundamentally different from people you encounter in the ordinary world. Sweeping pathways with deliberate strokes, tending gardens with careful attention, carrying water from the stone well in the center of the courtyard. No one speaks. There's no sense of tension or rushing, yet everything accomplishes itself with quiet efficiency. A monk in his 60s notices your uncertain stance and approaches with a gentle bow. He introduces himself as Thik, the monastery's teaching master, and invites you to join the morning meditation. You follow him through sliding wooden doors into the meditation hall. The space opens before you like a held breath, spacious and quiet. Rows of cushions face a single window where early sunlight filters through paper screens, creating patterns that seem to shift even as you watch them transform. The wooden floor carries the deep polish that comes from countless years of practitioners settling into stillness here. Your guide directs you to a cushion and shows you how to arrange your body in proper meditation posture. Sit with your back straight, but not rigid, he explains, as if your spine were a mountain. Let your hands rest naturally in your lap. Lower your gaze toward the flue, are about 4 feet in front of you. Now begin observing your breath, not controlling it, not changing it, simply noticing the natural rhythm of inhale and exhale. Feel the air moving through your nostrils. Notice the slight coolness as it enters, the warmth as it exits. This simple instruction feels both obvious and somehow revolutionary. How many years have you been breathing without actually noticing the breath? The hall begins filling with monks arriving for formal practice. You count them as they settle. 5, 12, 23, perhaps more in the shadows at the back. Each takes their place without ceremony, without announcement, moving with the practiced grace of those who have performed this same action thousands of times. Their movements suggest deep familiarity, a kind of trust in the known ritual. The collective presence creates an almost palpable field of concentrated attention. You feel it like an invisible pressure, a focusing of collective awareness, as though everyone's minds are pointing toward the same direction. As the bell rings 3 times, the sound clear and pure and penetrating, reverberating through your body, everyone shifts simultaneously into the same stillness. It's remarkable how synchronized the transition is. Your mind, accustomed to constant stimulation and fragmentation, suddenly has nowhere to go but to the present moment and your breathing. You notice immediately how difficult it is to keep attention on something so simple. Your thoughts scatter like startled birds. Your mind wants to wander through memories of yesterday, jump ahead to concerns about today or tomorrow, analyze what's happening around you, judge whether you're doing this correctly. Each time you notice this wandering, you gently bring attention back to the breath, over and over. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. The meditation continues in this way for what might be 20 minutes or might be an hour. Time becomes strangely elastic when your attention is fully concentrated. Minutes can feel like hours. Hours can pass like minutes. Your sense of time dissolves into something less certain. First teaching, impermanence. After meditation concludes with 3 more bell strikes and a period of quiet transition, Thich leads you to a garden courtyard facing east toward the mountains. The morning sun warms a stone bench where you both settle. The sound of birds calling from nearby trees accompanies the gentle rustling of leaves. Before we explore the teaching you came to understand, he begins. I must know what brought you here. What suffering or confusion prompted this journey? You consider the question carefully. For years, you explain, I felt stuck in a strange way. I accomplish goals and feel hollow inside. I experience good fortune, and it soon feels ordinary and unsatisfying. I face difficulties and become trapped in despair about the future. Nothing seems to hold lasting meaning or significance. Life feels like being on a perpetually moving escalator, always reaching the next step, but never arriving at genuine satisfaction. The monk nods slowly, as if he's heard this exact confession 1,000 times before. Perhaps he has from other seekers. This is the beginning of true learning, he says with clear conviction. When you recognize that something fundamental feels off about existence as you normally perceive and live it. The fundamental teaching I offer is called anicca, or impermanence. Everything that arises passes away. Everything that forms dissolves. Everything that begins eventually ends. You've heard these words before, surely. Death is inevitable. Change is constant. Yet most people understand these concepts intellectually while living as if they were false. They grasp at moments, clinging to pleasure and beauty, demanding permanence from the impermanent. When forced to face impermanence through loss, they resist violently. He stands and gestures toward the garden. Come. Let me show you what I mean. He leads you to a small pond where lotus flowers float on the surface. Some are fully bloomed in white and pink, their petals perfect and unblemished. Others remain tightly closed, still developing in the water. Some are just beginning to open, their petals barely separating, still finding their form. Between these stages, flowers in various states of transformation rest on lily pads, each one perfectly demonstrating where it is in its cycle. This is impermanence itself, Thich explains patiently, watching your gaze move across the different stages of blooming. These flowers didn't exist months ago. They arose from seeds beneath the mud. They grew through the water with patient intention. They bloomed into these forms you see, and within days or weeks, they will fade. The petals will brown and curl. The flowers will return to water and eventually back to mud. This cycle is not punishment or tragedy, it's simply how flowers are. He picks a fallen petal from the water's edge carefully, showing it to you. It's already becoming brittle, beginning to brown and curl at the edges. Applying this understanding to human life, he continues, we recognize that you too are a flower. Your body is an expression that arose from causes and conditions and will eventually dissolve back into them. Your emotions bloom and fade like petals opening and closing with the seasons. Your thoughts appear in your consciousness and disappear like birds landing and flying away. The you that you consider permanent, that solid self you think of as essentially you, is actually a continuously changing process. Nothing fixed about it. Most suffering comes from refusing this basic truth, from acting as though it weren't true. When you grasp at something beautiful in life, demanding it remain unchanged forever, insisting that this moment stay locked in amber, you guarantee yourself suffering when it inevitably transforms. Because everything transforms, everything changes. He gestures to a flower that's already past peak bloom, its edges beginning to show browning, petals starting to curl inward. This one was magnificent yesterday at dawn. Tomorrow it will be gone, completely transformed. But did it suffer? Did it resist its own nature? Did it rage against the inevitable cycle? It simply was what it was, exactly when it was what it was. The monk sits again on the stone bench. Notice your own experience right now, he suggests. You're aware of your body sitting here. Are these sensations constant or are they changing? You examine carefully, genuinely investigating this question. Even sitting still without moving, you notice subtle shifts happening. A slight itch on your arm that wasn't there moments ago. Warmth from the sun gradually intensifying on your face as clouds pass. Pressure where your body contacts the bench transforming slightly as you adjust your posture. A thought about breakfast rising unbidden in your mind. That thought passing away as another thought takes its place. Maybe concern about something. Your emotional state, which was anticipatory anxiety when you arrived, shifting gradually towards something more open, more receptive now. Nothing static, nothing fixed. Precisely, Thich confirms with a nod. This constant change is not a problem to be solved through effort or striving. It's simply the nature of conditioned existence, the nature of life itself. Yet recognizing it truly, not just as an intellectual concept, but as felt understanding in your body and mind, liberates us from constant disappointment. Because when we truly accept impermanence, we stop demanding permanence from an impermanent world. We stop trying to freeze moments, photograph them, hold them captive in memory and refuse their passing. We stop taking changes personally, as if they were violations of some cosmic contract or divine betrayal. Look at the clouds, he says, pointing toward the sky. They're constantly forming and dissolving, creating new shapes, disappearing entirely. No one blames them for changing. No one insists they remain in fixed shapes. Yet humans resist their own nature this same way, demanding to remain exactly as they are, refusing to age or change or grow. Understanding karma, the monk suggests continuing your conversation as you walk through the monastery grounds. The morning progresses toward midday, and there's much ground to cover. As you walk along stone pathways worn smooth by decades of footsteps, Tish introduces another foundational teaching. In the West, the word karma has been so distorted that it's nearly lost its original meaning. Most people think of karma as fate or cosmic punishment. Good actions bring good outcomes. Bad actions bring bad outcomes. As if the universe were a bookkeeper tallying moral debits and credits, keeping careful records of who deserves what. This is not what the Buddha taught, Thich explains. Karma simply means action. Kamavada is the teaching of action. The principle is elegant in its simplicity, profound in its implications. Actions have natural consequences. A stone dropped will fall. Water poured will spread. A seed planted will grow into a plant of that type, not some other type. A gesture of kindness plants seeds of kindness. Harsh speech plants seeds of harshness. This is not punishment or reward. It's simply how conditioned existence functions. This is simply how life is. You stop walking at a small garden where vegetables grow in careful rows, each plant thriving in its designated space. See these plants, Thich says. The farmer didn't punish the soil by planting seeds in it. She didn't reward certain patches of earth by watering them more. She simply understands how plants respond to conditions. Sun, water, soil quality, temperature, timing, attention. Plant a carrot seed with care, a carrot grows. Plant a bean seed with neglect, weaker beans grow. Plant in poor soil with no water, nothing grows well. Plant in rich soil with proper irrigation, everything flourishes. This farmer acts with skill because she understands the natural laws operating in her garden. She doesn't resent the plants for following their nature. She doesn't expect carrots to become potatoes. When you understand karma in this same way, your entire approach to life transforms. You stop blaming circumstances or other people for your situations. You stop waiting for cosmic justice to balance scales. Instead, you begin examining what actions, thoughts, and patterns you're cultivating. What seeds are you planting through how you live? What conditions are you creating for your future experiences? What kind of life are your daily choices building? The monk leads you toward a stream running through the monastery grounds, its water flowing clear and cold. He kneels beside it and picks up a small stone, examining it carefully in his weathered palm before speaking. "Watch," he says, dropping it into the still water. Ripples spread outward from the point of impact, expanding in perfect circles to touch every part of the water's surface. The pattern is orderly, mathematical, beautiful. Now watch what happens when the circles overlap, he continues. They create complex interference patterns, some waves amplifying each other, some cancelling each other out. The resulting surface becomes intricate beyond what you could predict from a single stone. Your actions are like this stone, each one creating ripples. Every action, every word, every thought creates ripples. Some spread immediately and obviously. A harsh word creates immediate hurt in the person who receives it. A kind gesture creates immediate warmth and receptivity. Others travel farther than you can see, their effects manifesting in ways you'll only understand later. A small encouragement you gave months ago might have prompted someone toward a path that transforms their life. A gossip you spread years ago might still be influencing how others perceive someone. Some ripples return to you quickly, reflected back by the water's edge of your social circles. Others take years or lifetimes to manifest their full effect, appearing when you've forgotten the initial action completely. Some effects compound with other effects, creating patterns of consequence too complex to predict or trace. You cannot control the water or the ripples themselves once they're initiated, but you can choose which stones to throw, which actions to take. This understanding brings profound responsibility and equally profound freedom. You're not helpless to your circumstances. You're not punished by the universe randomly for unknowable reasons. But you're also not the victim of circumstances beyond your influence. Every moment, You're planting seeds through your choices. Every action is contributing to the garden of your future life. You're constantly building something through your decisions. Most people live unconsciously, throwing stones without noticing the ripples, without understanding the connections, then wondering why their pond is so chaotic, why their relationships are troubled, why their lives feel disordered and conflicted. The teaching of karma invites you to wake up from your habitual unconsciousness, to notice what you're actually doing moment to moment, to become conscious and aware, to begin choosing your actions deliberately and deliberately based on understanding their consequences rather than just reacting mechanically. This is the invitation at the heart of practice. Thich stands, brushing water from his robe with a deliberate gesture. Notice that this creates a fundamental difference from how you probably live most of the time. Usually, people act based on immediate emotional reactions, operating on autopilot without conscious choice. Someone insults you, so you lash out defensively without thinking. You feel afraid, so you hoard resources or isolate yourself. You want something, so you grasp for it desperately without considering consequences, both for yourself and for others. Home might be affected. You feel threatened, so you strike first, preempting what you imagine will happen. This reactive living creates suffering, endless cycles of action and reaction feeding into each other, creating momentum that's difficult to stop. But when you understand karma as the teaching of action and consequence, something shifts. You begin pausing before responding, even briefly. In that pause, wisdom can emerge like light breaking through clouds. You can ask yourself what seeds you want to plant through this action. What kind of person are my actions making me? What consequences do I want to create? What future am I building with this choice? What will grow from this seed? This pause between stimulus and response is where human freedom actually lives, where we're no longer slaves to our conditioning. This is where wisdom becomes possible. This is the revolution of consciousness. Walking through gardens. Leaving the stream, Thich guides you deeper into the monastery's extensive gardens, winding stone paths leading between carefully tended sections. These gardens are not manicured in the formal European style, he explains as you walk. They work with nature rather than imposing artificial order. Observe how the gardeners have positioned plants according to sun exposure and water availability rather than fighting against natural conditions. You notice a twisted pine that has been carefully pruned over years to accentuate its natural inclination to grow sideways, creating a sculptural form that seems to emerge from the rocky soil rather than defy it. Its form is strange yet beautiful precisely because it honors the tree's own tendency rather than forcing it into a straight upright shape. This is the middle way that Buddhist practice teaches, Thich says, pausing to let you study the unusual tree, not forcing reality to meet your demands through willpower and control, acting as though the world should bend to your will and preferences, not passively surrendering to conditions and accepting whatever comes without attempting to influence anything, but skillfully working with what is, understanding nature's patterns and cooperating with them intelligently. Your life can function the same way. Most suffering comes from living at the extremes rather than at the dynamic center. Some people exhaust themselves fighting against reality relentlessly. They demand their bodies remain young forever, as if time and aging were violations instead of natural process. They insist their relationships work exactly as they imagine, even when other people have their own preferences and natures and independent needs. They fight against aging, illness, change, and loss itself. This creates constant struggle and suffering because they're always at war with what naturally is. Other people swing to the opposite extreme, abandoning all intention and effort. They accept harmful situations passively, believing they have no agency. They refuse to pursue their own well-being or flourishing. They become passive victims of circumstance, letting life happen to them rather than with them. This too creates suffering in its own way, a kind of depression and diminishment of the self. But there's a third way, a middle path. You can understand your conditions clearly and honestly, accept what cannot be changed, work skillfully with what can be influenced, and develop the wisdom to distinguish between these two categories. This wisdom is perhaps one of life's greatest gifts. The monk stops before a small meditation pavilion overlooking the valley below, a structure simple yet elegant with open sides, allowing the breeze to flow through. From here, we can see far, he observes. Villages spread below like small cells in a larger organism. Communities connected through roads and relationships. Fields with their geometric patterns of green and brown. Organized by human intention, yet dependent on natural forces. Rivers flowing through the landscape like the veins carrying water and nutrients through the landscape. Forests in their dark green abundance, ancient systems of relationship between countless organisms. All connected in a living system where everything affects everything else, in ways too complex to fully comprehend. Yet even this expanded view is limited in important ways. We cannot see beyond the horizon or into the heart of the mountain. Our understanding is always partial, always incomplete. We see only a small portion of the total picture. When you accept this fundamental limitation honestly, your approach to everything changes profoundly. You stop insisting on perfect control over situations. Stop demanding that everything bow to your understanding. You stop demanding complete understanding as a prerequisite for action, which would paralyze you. You work with what you can perceive and influence. Accepting that much remains beyond your comprehension or direct influence. This brings peace, paradoxically. A bell sounds in the distance, its tone clear and resonant, vibrating through the valley. Lei, signaling an approaching transition in the monastery's daily rhythm. Time for the midday meal approaches. Tick gestures toward the garden's far exit. Before we return for the midday meal, I want you to observe one more thing. He leads you to a section where gardeners are transplanting seedlings, their hands moving with delicate awareness around small, vulnerable plants, barely emerging from their initial stages of development. The seedlings are fragile, just beginning their journey from germination to maturity. See how Brother Hui works with these young plants, Tik says softly, admiration clear in his voice. He doesn't force them into shapes they wouldn't naturally assume, trying to make them into something they're not. He doesn't ignore them completely and hope they survive somehow without support. He provides appropriate conditions carefully, rich soil, water, light, protection from excessive wind and harsh conditions. He removes obstacles like weeds and pests that would choke the seedlings. He offers gentle guidance as they grow, staking delicate ones that need support, allowing vigorous ones their freedom to express themselves. This is karma yoga, the yoga of action done with awareness and skill. He's planting seeds today, knowing that seasons of growth will follow. The plants will mature according to their nature. Some will produce fruit or flowers far more abundantly than others. Some will struggle and need special attention and care. Some will fail despite best efforts, and this too is natural. All will follow their nature as plants when given appropriate conditions. Your life is the same garden. What seeds are you planting through your daily actions? Every choice you make is a seed entering the soil of your future. Every word you speak plants something. Every thought you cultivate in your mind shapes future thoughts. Every gesture of kindness you make sends ripples outward. Every moment of impatience or cruelty you indulge also plants seeds. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is lost. Everything contributes to the garden you're creating through your life. Midday meal ritual. The dining hall of the monastery is a simple space, its wooden walls aged by centuries of use and deeply polished by generations of monks moving through this room. Low tables are arranged in neat rows, and monks are already settling onto cushions, placing their bowls and eating utensils in precise positions before them. Thich guides you to a place along one wall where you can observe the ritual about to unfold. You notice no food has been touched, despite steam rising temptingly from ceramic pots at the center of each table. The aromas of vegetable and grain mixing into something complex. The monks sit in patient stillness, waiting, contained. A senior monk at the hall's front strikes a wooden bell 3 times. Its tone resonates through the space with surprising depth, then fades gradually into silence. Once all are settled and attentive, the head monk begins chanting. His voice is not particularly beautiful in the conventional sense, but carries deep resonance, a quality of gravitas. Other monks join their voices to his, their voices blending into harmonious texture, creating something larger than any individual voice. The chant expresses gratitude, Thich whispers, leaning close so you hear him clearly. Gratitude for the food itself, for those who grew it, for those who transported it, for those who prepared it, and for this opportunity to nourish our bodies mindfully. Gratitude for being alive to receive this nourishment. The chant concludes, and the head monk invites a moment of extended silence. In this silence, he instructs, we contemplate the complete interconnection that brought this meal before us. Consider the seed that was planted, grown from soil. The rain that fell from clouds formed by evaporation from distant oceans. The sun that provided energy through photosynthesis, that ancient process transforming light into matter. The farmer who tended the crops, making countless small decisions. The workers who harvested and transported them, often invisible, often underpaid. The cook who transformed raw ingredients into this nourishment, combining flavors and textures. Hundreds of beings, seen and unseen, some living, some long dead, have contributed to this moment. The interconnection is staggering. Only after this contemplation does the serving begin. It's orderly and mindful. Each person receives modest portions in their bowl. No one begins eating until all are served, creating a moment of collective presence. Thich nods to you encouragingly as rice, vegetables, and tofu are placed in your bowl by a young monk who performs this action with genuine care. Before you eat, look deeply at your food. Thich suggests quietly, not with judgment or analysis, but with genuine attention and appreciation. See the universe represented in your bowl, the sun and rain transformed into plant matter, the earth's minerals drawn up through roots into edible form. This is not poetry or metaphor. This is literal truth. This is actually what has happened. You look at your simple meal with new awareness and something shifts in you. The ordinary bowl before you suddenly seems extraordinary, almost sacred. Each grain of rice represents a whole growing season of rain and sun and farmers' labor. The vegetables represent soil that took years to develop, water drawn from deep reservoirs, sunlight captured and converted into sustenance. Human hands touch this food multiple times. When you consider everything required for this food to appear before you in this place at this time, when you trace back all the causes and conditions, the complexity staggers your mind. It's overwhelming and humbling. Eat with full awareness, Thich instructs. Notice the texture as you lift the food to your mouth. Observe the aroma as it rises. Experience the taste completely before swallowing. Chew slowly, remaining fully present with this nourishment. Don't rush. The dining hall settles into profound quiet. Only the subtle sounds of mindful eating break the silence. The gentle clink of spoons against bowls, the subtle movement of people bringing food to mouths slowly and deliberately, breathing. The absence of conversation or other distraction, of phones or screens or entertainment, creates an unusual quality of presence. You taste your food genuinely for perhaps the first time in years. Flavors seem more vivid and distinct. The texture of rice carries complexity you'd never noticed before. Each grain its own experience. The slight bitterness of greens balances perfectly with the sweetness of another vegetable. The umami richness of the tofu grounds everything. This simple meal becomes an entire experience, a complete universe when given your full attention. It's remarkable what you've been missing. Most people rush through life in this same way, Thich explains between mindful bites. They eat without tasting their food. They look without really seeing. They listen without truly hearing. They're physically present for countless precious moments, but mentally absent, lost in thoughts about the past or future, worrying or planning or dwelling. They miss the only moment that actually exists, which is always now. When you understand the first teaching about impermanence and the second about karma, your relationship with the present moment transforms fundamentally. You recognize that right now is all you truly have. This breath, this taste, this moment of connection with the food and with others eating. The future never comes, you realize. You only ever live now. After the meal concludes, the monks engage in a brief closing ritual, using a piece of pickled vegetable to clean the bowl's interior meticulously, then wiping it carefully with cloth. Even the water used in this cleaning is poured deliberately into a garden basin, rather than wasted down a drain. Nothing is discarded carelessly. Everything serves its function and finds its place. This too is part of the teaching, Thich notes as you complete your meal. When we understand that actions create consequences, we begin honoring the web of interdependence supporting us continuously. We waste less. We consume more, mindfully and gratefully. We recognize the value in what others might thoughtlessly discard. In this simple meal ritual, the entire philosophy of practice finds expression and becomes tangible and real. Awareness of where food comes from. Gratitude for all the hands and conditions that contributed. Connection with all beings involved in creating this nourishment. Mindful action in how you consume it. Integration of understanding into daily life. This is how transformation happens, not in grand moments, but through subtle shifts in how we meet the ordinary. Following the meal, Thich suggests you take a brief rest in your quarters before the afternoon meditation. The afternoon heat makes deep practice difficult, he explains, so the monastery has adapted its schedule to work with rather than against natural conditions. Rest when the body naturally wants rest. Practice when the mind is fresh and alert. This too is wisdom, understanding how to align your practice with natural rhythms, rather than fighting them. In many Western monasteries, he observes, practitioners try to maintain rigid schedules, regardless of the body's actual capacity. They push through fatigue and heat to prove their dedication, but this often creates frustration and injury. Here we've learned through centuries that wisdom meets conditions as they are. You return to your small room and lie on the sleeping mat for what you think will be a quick rest. Instead, you slip into deep sleep, your body finally releasing tension accumulated over months of stress and confusion about your life. Sleep comes so deeply that dreams don't interrupt it. Your consciousness seems to simply switch off and back on again. You wake unclear how much time has passed, feeling more refreshed than you have in years. The room has changed while you slept. Afternoon light now streams through the small window at a different angle, warmer and more golden than the morning's light. When you emerge into the courtyard, the quality of light has shifted dramatically. The sun has moved lower in the sky, casting longer shadows across the stone pathways, creating patterns that weren't visible before. The monastery feels different in afternoon light, more intimate somehow, less like a formal teaching space, and more like a home where people live their daily lives. The golden quality of the sun creates warmth on stone pathways, and the air itself feels different, thicker, heavier, waiting for evening's approach. Thich finds you standing in the courtyard, seemingly appearing exactly when you need guidance, and gestures toward the meditation hall. The afternoon sits, for meditation, are briefer and less formal than morning practice. He explains as you walk together through the monastery grounds. We use this time to investigate the teachings more directly through experience rather than sustained concentration alone. In the morning, when minds are fresh, we build stability and strength of attention. By afternoon, with some foundation established, we can inquire more deeply into the nature of experience itself. The meditation hall feels different in afternoon light. Dust particles dance in beams of golden sunlight streaming through high windows, visible now in ways they weren't in morning's clearer light. The air carries temperature and quality of late afternoon, that particular time of day when energy shifts, when the day begins its transition toward evening. You can almost feel it in your body, a subtle shift in alertness. Fewer monks are present for this session, perhaps a dozen rather than the larger morning gathering, which creates a more intimate atmosphere. Some appear to be maintaining their own practice rather than receiving instruction from teachers. They sit in focused concentration, faces peaceful and undisturbed. Settle into your posture, Thich instructs, once you're both seated on cushions facing each other. This time, position yourself so you're comfortable for an extended period. We'll sit together for perhaps an hour, so find a position your body can maintain. Bring awareness to your breath initially, establishing some stability of attention. Don't force concentration, simply let your attention rest gently on the breath's natural rhythm. You follow these instructions carefully, and your awareness quickly stabilizes. The afternoon quietness supporting concentration far more readily than you expected. Your breathing finds a natural rhythm, and your mind settles more readily than this morning, as though the practice hours ago has established neural pathways toward quiet, as though your mind remembers now how to find stillness. The morning's teaching about impermanence seems to be working on deeper levels, softening your habitual resistance and striving. After several minutes of settling into peaceful breathing, Thich speaks again, in a voice barely above a whisper, yet somehow perfectly audible to you, despite the silence surrounding you. Now expand your awareness beyond breath to include sensation in your body. Notice areas of comfort or discomfort without judgment. Don't try to change them, don't resist them. Simply become aware of what sensations are actually present right now. You follow this instruction, beginning a systematic body scan of sorts, though not mechanically moving attention from head to toes. Instead, you simply become aware of the entire body's sensory field. Pressure where you contact the cushion, specific and localized. A slight ache in your lower back that's been present all day, but you've ignored, now noticed more clearly as you turn attention toward it. Warmth from the afternoon sun on your left side, where light streams through a window. Coolness on your right, where shade prevails. Tingling in your feet from sitting in this cross-legged position. Subtle itching on your arm that appears now that you're paying attention. Each sensation simply exists without being good or bad in itself, just sensation arising and present, changing moment by moment as you observe. The instruction to simply notice without judging helps you see something remarkable. How much of your suffering comes not from sensations themselves, but from your resistance to them, your wish they were different, your story about what they mean. Now, notice your emotional state, Thich continues, his voice carrying that quality of gentleness that seems to make the inner space feel safer. Are you feeling peaceful, restless, content, impatient, anxious? Whatever is present in your emotional field, don't judge it. Simply acknowledge it. Bring awareness to it. You scan your inner emotional landscape and discover a mixture of feelings beneath the surface. Interest and openness from the morning's teachings, a kind of receptivity, lingering anxiety about problems back home, worries that haven't disappeared just because you've left, appreciation for this unusual opportunity, gratitude that layers underneath everything, perhaps some uncertainty about whether you're doing this practice correctly. some self-consciousness about being observed, tenderness from rest and the good meal, all present simultaneously in your emotional body. The instruction to simply acknowledge without judgment helps you observe something crucial. These emotions are not you, not defining truths about your being, but experiences moving through you like weather patterns moving through the sky. They have their own life force, their own arising and passing, separate from your witnessing awareness. Next, observe thoughts passing through your mind, your teacher suggests, allowing more silence to stretch between his words and your continued practice. Watch them arise and disappear without getting caught in their content or narrative. Some thoughts will be interesting, some trivial. Don't try to stop them or control them. Simply notice how each arises, exists briefly, then fades to make way for new thoughts naturally emerging. This practice reveals something stark, how continuously busy your mind remains, even in this peaceful setting, designed explicitly for quiet. Plans for the future surface, memories of the past replay. Questions about what you're experiencing arise unbidden. Judgments about whether you're doing this correctly create recursive loops. Elaborate stories construct meaning from sensations and experiences, elaborating on themes. An endless stream of mental activity that usually goes completely unnoticed because you're caught inside it rather than observing it from a slight distance. Over several minutes, something curious happens. The more you simply observe without engaging, the more the mental activity gradually quiets, not suppressed, but settling naturally, like mud in water that stopped being stirred. When mud isn't disturbed, it gradually settles to the bottom and the water becomes clearer. Your mind seems to work the same way. When you stop feeding thoughts through engagement and judgment, they slow and quiet. The clarity this brings feels refreshing, like finally being able to see clearly in fog that's gradually dissipated. This is where the real teaching emerges, Thich says, after some time has passed. All of these elements you've been observing, sensations, emotions, thoughts, consciousness itself, all arise according to conditions. Notice how a particular sensation appears because of position and external temperature. How an emotion arises because specific thoughts and memories and sensations support it. How thoughts emerge because of previous thoughts and external stimuli and your particular conditioning and mental patterns. Nothing arises independently. Everything manifests through the meeting of multiple conditions. When you truly see this clearly, he continues, something shifts in your relationship with experience. You stop taking it personally, stop resisting what's present, stop desperately grasping at what feels pleasant. Instead, you develop what we call equanimity, a balanced awareness that meets each experience with clear seeing. This understanding that everything happens for specific reasons according to conditions isn't abstract philosophy, your teacher emphasizes. It's direct knowing available through investigation of your own immediate experience. As the meditation continues in silence, you explore this investigation more deeply, noticing the constant arising and passing of sensations, the formation and dissolution of thoughts, the way emotions are supported by specific conditions, and shift as those conditions change. Nothing solid, nothing fixed, everything flowing like a river. After perhaps an hour, a gentle bell signals the end of formal meditation. You open your eyes slowly, the hall gradually coming into focus, other monks stirring slightly, after their own deep practice. Leaving the meditation hall as afternoon moves into early evening, Thich suggests a walk in the monastery gardens before the evening meal. The light at this hour is particularly beautiful, he says. The sky has turned that particular shade of blue that appears only at certain times of day. Trees and plants cast long shadows, creating patterns of light and darkness that emphasize the landscape's contours and depth. You follow him along stone pathways, winding deeper into the gardens than you've explored yet, entering a section devoted to what appears to be experimental growing. Different techniques and approaches represented in various raised beds and containers. Look at how these different sections work with, rather than against, natural conditions, Thich suggests, gesturing toward various plantings. Here, Brother Min grows plants that prefer partial shade by positioning them beneath the dappled light of tree canopies, rather than fighting their nature by exposing them to full sun. Over there, he's arranged stones to create microclimates, using their absorbed heat to warm certain plants while protecting others with shade. He's observing carefully how different plants respond, what conditions support their thriving, and he's creating those conditions consciously. This is dependent origination in action. Your teacher continues with clarity, stopping before a section where herbs grow in abundance, their green leaves seeming to glow in the late afternoon light. Each plant exists because of specific conditions working together. The herb thrives because the soil contains proper nutrients drawn from years of composting and careful preparation. Water reaches it regularly when needed through mindful gardening. Sunlight illuminates it appropriately, given its location beneath the tree canopy, and Brother Min protects it from excessive pests and competition through careful observation and pruning. Remove any significant condition, and the herb's response changes dramatically. If water stopped flowing, the plant would wilt. If nutrients disappeared from soil, growth would weaken. If sunlight was blocked, the plant would become pale and struggle. This same principle, your teacher emphasizes with conviction, operates in every aspect of existence, without exception. Your current situation right now, the fact that you're standing here at this monastery asking these profound questions, exists because countless conditions came together in improbable alignment. You faced genuine dissatisfaction with how your life was unfolding, the dissatisfaction that motivated seeking change. You had enough resources and freedom to travel, economic and personal circumstances permitting the choice. You heard about this monastery through some means, perhaps a book or recommendation or online search or conversation. You made the deliberate decision to come, choosing this over countless other possibilities. Countless factors in the world's history and your personal history converged to create this specific moment you're living. Your parents meeting, leading to your birth. Educational experiences shaping your perspective. Life circumstances creating both suffering and capacity to recognize that suffering. This understanding is liberating in profound ways, he continues, because it means you're not trapped by fixed fate, not powerless before cosmic destiny. Conditions are constantly changing, constantly offering new possibilities for different outcomes. If you understand the conditions creating your current circumstances, you can consciously influence which conditions develop in your life, thereby creating different futures. If you understand that you're isolated and lonely because conditions created isolation, you can work to change conditions by developing connection and community. If you're stuck in a career that doesn't fulfill you, you can understand the conditions that led there and establish different conditions moving forward. This understanding also creates profound compassion for all beings. When someone acts in ways that harm others, you recognize their actions arise from specific conditioning, limited understanding, pain they've experienced in their own lives. This doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior or abandoning boundaries, but it creates space for seeing people more completely, more humanely, rather than just their actions and judging them harshly. A monk approaches, carrying pruning tools in his weathered hands and bows respectfully to Thich. Your teacher gestures for you to observe carefully as the monk begins his work, moving closer so you can watch the details. Brother Tuan is removing branches that aren't serving the plant's well-being, Thich explains quietly, not doing this out of any judgment against the branches themselves as if they were bad or wrong, but understanding that their presence prevents light and air from reaching more important growth areas. Look how he examines each branch before cutting, understanding the plant's structure, understanding what serves the whole organism. He's working skillfully with the plant's nature rather than arbitrarily controlling it through brute force. See how each cut is clean, not tearing or damaging the trunk. This too is a teaching directly relevant to your practice. In practice, we sometimes need to consciously remove conditions that don't serve our flourishing and development, habits that waste our energy and time, relationships that drain us without nourishing, thought patterns that create suffering without purpose, addictions and distractions and entertainments that pull us away from what matters, not done from harsh judgment, but from wise recognition of what serves our deepest well-being. Your teacher turns to face you directly now, his aged face illuminated carefully by the particular quality of late afternoon light, the sun now touching the western mountains. What the Buddha taught is sometimes called a middle way, a path between extremes. One extreme would be trying to control every condition through force of will, fighting against reality relentlessly, demanding that the world bow to your preferences. The other extreme would be complete passivity, accepting whatever arises without attempting to influence anything, abdicating all responsibility. But there's a third way, a path of wise discernment available to anyone willing to develop it. Understanding what you can influence through your choices and actions and what lies beyond your influence. Accepting what cannot be changed while still responding to it wisely. Working skillfully with what can be influenced through understanding its nature. This develops wisdom gradually through practice and careful attention to the results of your actions. The sun continues its descent, the shadows lengthening further, the quality of light becoming increasingly golden and warm, creating that particular beauty that exists only at this transitional hour. Thich leads you to a section of gardens you haven't seen before, where a small pavilion overlooks the valley beyond the monastery. It's a simple structure with an open front, designed to frame the view rather than shelter from it. From this vantage point, the world opens into expansive vista. Villages visible in the distance like small settlements scattered deliberately in a vast landscape. Roads connecting them like threads in a complex fabric of human civilization. Agricultural fields, with their geometric patterns of green and brown and gold, demonstrating human intention, working with natural conditions. Rivers meandering through valleys following the landscape's natural contours, carving their paths through rock and soil over millennia. Forests in their dark abundance, representing ecosystems of staggering complexity. And beyond everything, mountains rising in layers of diminishing clarity toward a horizon where earth and sky seem to merge into unified reality. The scale of what you're viewing expands your sense of perspective dramatically. This view contains the entire teaching, Thich says quietly, his voice barely above a whisper, yet carrying with authority. Everything here that you observe exists through specific conditions. Mountains rose through geological processes spanning millions of years, plate tectonics and erosion and sedimentation. Forests grew through countless seasons of growth and cycles of death and renewal, through relationships between countless organisms, each depending on others. Rivers formed as water naturally flowed downward following gravity, carving their channels deeper over geologic time. Villages appeared where conditions supported human settlement, near water and arable land and natural shelter. Roads developed connecting those settlements, paths worn deeper by the passage of countless feet, and later hardened by deliberate construction. Every single element you observe exists through causes and conditions operating at scales from vast geological time to individual moments happening now. From your limited vantage point, standing here at this moment, he continues, you can see patterns and relationships. You can recognize how everything affects everything else. The river's flow carries water that nourishes villages. The forests prevent erosion that would clog rivers. The roads connect people from different villages, creating trade and relationship. The mountains shape weather patterns that create rain falling on fields. The fields feed the villages. Humans modify the landscape, which affects rivers and forests. The interconnection spirals outward, endlessly complex. Yet you cannot see the full picture from here. Mountains beyond the horizon hide from view, and beyond those mountains are other lands and peoples and conditions you know nothing of. You cannot see underground water supplies moving through rock deep below where the rivers flow. You cannot see atmospheric conditions, atmospheric pressure and humidity and temperature interactions that will create tomorrow's weather or next season's rainfall. Your understanding is always partial, always incomplete, always limited by the boundaries of your perception. This recognition brings humility and opens your awareness to acceptance. When we approach our own lives with this same recognition your teacher emphasizes with particular clarity, we stop insisting on perfect understanding of all conditions or complete control of all circumstances. We stop demanding that life work according to our limited comprehension and predetermined preferences. We work skillfully with what we can perceive and influence. We accept the limitations of our understanding rather than pretending to omniscience. We respond to what presents itself rather than demanding reality conform to our preconceptions about how things should be. This is where peace actually becomes possible. A cool breeze rises from the valley below, carrying the scent of distant rain and growing things, carrying the smell of earth and green life. Your teacher closes his eyes for a moment, simply experiencing the breeze and the view without agenda or commentary, standing in what appears to be complete presence. You notice how naturally he exists in stillness and presence, how comfortable he appears simply being here without needing distraction or entertainment or constant conversation to fill silence. This too is teaching, showing you something about what practice develops over time, what becomes possible when the mind settles and the heart opens. The peace evident in his bearing suggests freedom you haven't yet experienced. Evening approaches definitively now. The sky has shifted from bright blue to deeper blue with hints of purple and orange intensifying near the horizon, painting the western sky in colors that deepen moment by moment. Thiek opens his eyes and suggests returning to the main buildings for the evening meal. The day's practice and teaching having created natural progression toward the rhythm of the monastery's evening rhythm. But before we do, he says, I want to address something many seekers struggle with when they begin understanding these teachings more deeply. They sometimes become anxious, worrying obsessively about all their past actions, creating negative consequences extending into their future. They obsess over mistakes they've made, replaying them mentally, judging themselves harshly. They become paralyzed by perfectionism, trying desperately to never make errors, trying to live without blemish. This misses the entire point of the teaching. Your teacher emphasizes firmly. Understanding that everything happens for reasons according to conditions isn't meant to create anxiety or burden you with impossible standards of perfection. It's meant to empower you with understanding, to create freedom through clear seeing. It's meant to help you make more conscious choices moving forward, because you understand consequences. The past cannot be changed. Your past actions have created effects, ripples still spreading outward like concentric circles on a pond, consequences still unfolding in ways you may never fully know or see. You cannot undo what's been done, but you can learn from it. You can understand what conditions led to past actions and how they created consequences. You can examine your own conditioning, your fears and desires and habitual patterns to understand why you acted as you did. Understanding leads to compassion for your own past, even when your past included mistakes or harm. You can then choose deliberately to establish different conditions now, creating different causes that will produce different consequences for your future. This is where freedom actually exists, not in the past, which is fixed and complete, but in this moment, in your choices going forward, in your intentions and actions and speech. Your freedom lives in present moment choices, not in regrets about the past. Your teacher stands and suggests returning for the evening meal, beginning the descent back through gardens toward the monastery buildings. As you walk back through the gardens, descending gradually toward the monastery buildings, something has subtly shifted in how you perceive everything surrounding you. The garden appears physically identical to how it appeared hours ago, yet somehow more alive now, more full of meaning, more transparent to its own nature. Each plant visibly expressing its particular conditions, its nature responding to soil and water and sun and care. Each stone positioned intelligently in relation to the whole landscape design, creating the overall composition deliberately. Each path worn smooth in particular patterns by the many footsteps of practitioners moving through. These gardens over centuries of walking, wearing the stone, smooth through patient repetition. Everything connected in visible relationships. Everything depending on everything else in ways you're just beginning to comprehend. This is what the teaching is revealing gradually. Not new information being delivered to you, but clearer seeing of what was always present if you had eyes to perceive it. The evening meal follows the same mindful pattern as midday, the ritual becoming more familiar now, less strange and more comfortable. Simple food received with gratitude, awareness brought to each bite, noticing textures and flavors and temperatures. Connection acknowledged with all beings whose efforts brought this nourishment to your bowl. Farmers and cooks and vendors and carriers, countless hands and efforts. Following the meal, which feels particularly nourishing after the day of practice and teaching, Thich suggests spending time in the meditation hall for evening practice before retiring for the night. The structured day is moving naturally toward completion and rest calls. The atmosphere is different as dusk settles into darkness outside the windows. As evening deepens beyond the transition hour, candles have been lit throughout the hall, their soft light creating islands of warm illumination in the growing darkness. The contrast between lit and dark areas creates depth, making the hall feel larger and more spacious. Other monks arrive gradually for evening practice, their faces peaceful and concentrated, many having practiced at this hour for decades. They know this rhythm intimately. You settle onto your cushion, arranging yourself in familiar posture now, your body remembering this position with surprising ease after multiple sessions today. The cushion feels comfortable despite the firmness, supporting your posture well. Tonight's meditation will focus on equanimity, Thich explains, once all are seated in stillness. This is the quality of mind that remains balanced and steady, regardless of whether experience is pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. This quality of equanimity is like a rock not moved by wind, stable regardless of what blows against it. Many people misunderstand equanimity as indifference or emotional coldness, as though you become disconnected from experience and don't care. But it's actually the opposite of that. Equanimity is not disconnection. It's the deep peace that comes from understanding that all experiences arise according to conditions and pass according to conditions. It's freedom from the exhausting struggle against reality. When you understand this understanding fully, you stop struggling desperately to hold on to pleasant experiences, trying to freeze them permanently and make them never change. You stop violently rejecting unpleasant ones, resisting them, fighting against their existence. You meet each moment with clarity and wisdom instead. Begin by settling attention on your breath. Your teacher instructs, his voice soft yet clear. Notice the natural rhythm of breathing without any attempt to control or change anything. Simply allow the breath to be exactly as it is, following its own way. After several minutes of settling into this gentle observation, he guides you deeper. Expand awareness to include your body. Notice all sensations without judgment of any kind. See how they arise and pass according to conditions you didn't create. Pressure where you contact the cushion. Slight aches from sitting for extended periods today. Warmth where sunlight touched you earlier during the day. Coolness where shade prevailed. Each sensation complete in itself, not requiring your approval or disapproval, not needing to be liked or disliked. You practice observing bodily sensations with this quality of neutral awareness, neither grasping desperately at pleasant sensations nor rejecting and resisting unpleasant ones, simply noting them. This is equanimity beginning to develop. Now bring attention to emotions present in your awareness. Your teacher continues after more silence. What feelings are actually present in your emotional body right now? Perhaps peacefulness from the afternoon meditation practice. Perhaps lingering anxiety about returning to your regular life with all its demands. Perhaps gratitude for this unusual opportunity to step outside your normal existence and learn these teachings. Perhaps contentment from good food and rest. All these emotions can be present simultaneously. Notice these emotions without trying to change them or suppress them. See them as conditions arising and passing, supported by specific factors and conditions you can begin recognizing. The instruction seems simple, yet proves remarkably challenging as you attempt it. Your habitual mind wants to dive into emotions, elaborate their stories, create narratives about what they mean, identify with them as defining truths about yourself. It takes genuine effort to simply observe them as phenomena arising and passing like weather. Yet as you continue practicing this observation, something gradually shifts. The emotions themselves become less solid, less absolute, less defining of who you are. You can observe gratitude without becoming overwhelmed by it, without needing to hold on to it. You can notice anxiety without believing the catastrophic stories the anxious mind constructs. The emotions become more transparent, more like weather patterns passing through the sky of your awareness, temporary rather than fundamental truths about reality. The storms come and go. Finally, observe your thoughts themselves, Thich guides, after several more minutes of silent practice. Watch them arise and pass without getting caught in their content or believing them absolutely. See thoughts as mental events occurring rather than truth. Watch how new thoughts constantly replace previous thoughts, pushing them aside. Watch how thoughts arise in response to sensations you've observed and emotions you've noticed, and previous thoughts still echoing in mind. Just observe the entire process without engaging with it, without believing you must do something about it. In this deeper observation of mental processes, you begin seeing the mechanism of your own mind operating, how automatically you construct narratives about experience, how habitually you judge experiences as good and bad, desirable and undesirable, how readily you identify with thoughts, taking them as truth. But from this perspective of observer standing slightly apart, you begin to recognize they're just mental events, temporary phenomena arising from specific conditions. Each thought will pass and be replaced. Each judgment will dissolve. As the meditation deepens and you maintain this observing awareness, something remarkable happens at a level you can't quite name. Your relationship with your own experience fundamentally shifts. You're no longer caught completely inside the drama of emotions and thoughts. You're somehow aware of these processes unfolding, yet simultaneously not identified with them, not taking them personally, not believing they define you. This creates space, creates freedom, creates a lightness that's difficult to describe in words. It feels like stepping back from something and seeing it clearly. The meditation continues in silence for what might be 30 minutes, or might be an hour, or might be even longer. Time becomes elastic and uncertain in these deeper states of awareness. At some point, a bell rings 3 times. its tone clear and penetrating, signaling the end of formal practice. You gradually transition back to ordinary awareness, opening your eyes slowly returning to the room. The candles still flicker gently, creating their dancing shadows. Other monks sit in peaceful stillness, some for longer moments, before gradually standing and moving quietly into the evening. Thik catches your eye and nods with a apparent satisfaction, a slight smile evident on his face. You've made good progress today. His expression seems to communicate without words. This itself is teaching. This recognition that genuine progress comes not through desperate striving or pushing yourself harder or judging yourself harshly, but through simply showing up sincerely and practicing authentically and letting whatever emerges come naturally in its own time, in its own way. Rest well tonight. The evening settles deeper around you all as monks move quietly out of the meditation hall. You wake before dawn on your second day, consciousness gradually surfacing like a swimmer rising from deep water toward light and air. The monastery bell hasn't rung yet, but something in the quality of darkness outside your window tells you morning approaches. Your body feels different than yesterday morning, more rested, as though sleep has allowed accumulated tension to release that your waking mind didn't recognize was there. The firmness of the sleeping mat no longer bothers you. Instead, it feels appropriately supportive, neither too soft nor too hard. Exactly what your body needs to maintain proper spinal alignment. You lie still for a few moments, practicing the simple awareness that's become almost natural now. 3 conscious breaths establishing presence before rising, noticing how different your breathing is this morning, calmer, deeper, less hurried than the shallow breathing you brought with you from your regular life. The courtyard is quiet as you emerge, though a few monks are already moving about, beginning their morning preparations with unhurried purpose. A young monk nods at you in greeting without speaking, continuing his purposeful movement, carrying water from a tap toward the garden, where you can hear him pouring carefully into terracotta vessels. The pre-dawn air carries coolness that yesterday's afternoon heat hadn't prepared you for, and you feel gratitude for the robe wrapping you against the chill. You wrap it more tightly and find yourself drawn toward the meditation hall, where soft light from oil lamps creates amber glow through the open doors. Thik sits alone on a cushion, his eyes closed in apparent meditation, so still he might have been carved from stone centuries ago. You hesitate no to wanting to disturb his practice, not wanting to interrupt whatever deep states he inhabits at this hour. But he opens his eyes as though sensing your presence without looking, without any visible shift in his body. "Come," he says simply, gesturing to a cushion beside him. "We'll practice together before the morning bell." The shared silence of meditation with your teacher feels different than sitting alone or in a group with other practitioners. There's an intimacy to it, a quality of direct transmission that seems to communicate beyond words into something deeper. You settle into posture, and your mind surprises you by settling almost immediately into calm focus, unlike yesterday's morning struggle. The breath finds its rhythm without you commanding it. The body relaxes into the sitting position as though it remembers this peace from some place within itself. After weeks of struggling with meditation before arriving here, weeks of trying to force concentration and getting frustrated when the mind wouldn't cooperate, you've suddenly found what practitioners speak of as ease in practice. This ease isn't permanent or guaranteed to continue. You somehow understand intuitively from something your teacher communicated without words, but right now it's present and you simply rest into it, like sinking into water that supports rather than drowns. After perhaps an hour, though time again seems uncertain in meditation, elastic and undefined, the monastery bell rings, signaling the shift toward morning activities and breakfast. The bell's tone penetrates your meditation gradually, pulling your awareness back without harsh interruption. Thich opens his eyes with apparent calm, showing no sign that extended practice has disrupted him in any way, his body transitioning smoothly from stillness to movement. "Some teachings are better lived than spoken," he says quietly as you both rise. Your legs stiff from sitting, but your mind surprisingly clear. You understand he means something about how sitting in practice together has already begun teaching you something words cannot convey about the possibility of stillness and peace, about what becomes available when the mind finally stops its constant reaching and simply rests in what is. Breakfast follows the now familiar pattern of mindful eating. Though you notice you've begun naturally doing this without needing instruction, automatically bringing full awareness to taste and texture and temperature without conscious effort. The simple rice porridge with vegetables and herbs feels nourishing in ways your regular diet never does, each spoonful containing flavors you're only now learning to taste. Your body feels grateful for this food, for the care taken in its preparation, for the farmer's work that brought these vegetables into being. After eating and the final cleaning ritual, Thich suggests a walk into the forest beyond the monastery grounds, saying there's an important teaching he wants to share, and that the forest provides a better setting than the courtyards where you might be interrupted. The path descends from the monastery into increasingly dense forest, the canopy overhead growing thicker, more complex, dappling the path with shifting patterns of light and shadow that change moment by moment as clouds move across the sky. Bird calls echo through the trees, communicating in languages you don't understand yet instinctively feel. The air smells of wet earth and growing things, rich and alive, saturated with moisture from recent rain and the decomposition of countless living things that feed new growth. You walk in silence for perhaps 20 minutes, your footsteps cushioned on thick moss and pine needles, until reaching a small clearing where a massive fallen tree bridges a stream, creating a natural crossing. The fallen tree suggests decades of undisturbed growth before it finally toppled, becoming now a pathway for those who come after it. Thich sits on the log, gesturing for you to join him on the smooth, slightly damp wood. "Let me tell you a story," he says, his voice carrying differently in the forest than in the monastery buildings, somehow more natural here among trees and running water. This is one of the Buddha's teachings about how our judgments limit our understanding of life's events, how we create suffering through our limited perspective. There was a farmer in ancient times who lived at the edge of a village, your teacher begins, his voice carrying differently in the forest than in the monastery buildings, somehow more natural here among trees and flowing water. He had worked his fields for many seasons and developed a life of routine and modest prosperity, enough to sustain himself and have a little extra. One day, his only horse, the one he relied on for working the fields, ran away mysteriously, disappearing into the mountains. When the village neighbors learned of this misfortune, they came to his home to offer sympathy and console him about his terrible bad luck. "Such terrible news," they said. "How will you manage?" The farmer simply replied, "Maybe." The neighbors looked confused by his lack of distress but eventually left, shaking their heads at his strange equanimity. That night somehow, the horse returned on its own and brought with it 3 wild horses that had been running free in the mountains. The next day, the farmer's neighbors returned, now congratulating him enthusiastically on his good fortune. How wonderful that the horse came back and brought more horses with it. "This is extraordinary luck," they exclaimed with genuine excitement. The farmer again simply responded, "Maybe," showing the same calm composure he had displayed days earlier. The following day, the farmer's son, excited by the prospect of having more horses, tried to ride one of the wild, untamed horses. The horse, not accustomed to carrying riders, threw him violently, and he fell hard onto the ground, breaking his leg badly. The neighbors came once more, this time to sympathize again about the son's terrible accident, the tragedy of his injury, worried about how he would heal and whether his leg might not work properly afterward. Such terrible fortune, they lamented. Just when things seem to be going well, this happens. The farmer again remained unmoved by their judgment and their worry. Maybe, he said simply, with the same quiet acceptance he had maintained throughout all the circumstances. The day after that, military officials arrived at the village conscripting young men for a war that was about to begin against a neighboring kingdom. When they came to the farmer's home and saw the farmer's son with his broken leg still healing, unable to walk, they moved on to conscript others who were physically capable. The neighbors came one final time, now certain they understood the farmer's situation. They celebrated how the injury had actually been a blessing in disguise, protecting his son from the horrors of war that would likely kill him. "Now you see your fortune," they exclaimed. "The injury that seemed like tragedy saved your son's life." The farmer looked at them calmly and said one more time, "Maybe," maintaining his equanimous perspective even in the face of their certainty. Thish pauses for a long moment, letting the story settle into you like rain falling slowly into earth, soaking through soil, becoming part of the ground itself. Do you understand what the farmer knew that his neighbors did not? He asks you directly. You consider the story carefully, turning it over in your mind, looking at it from different angles. He was saying that it's impossible to judge events as good or bad when you can't see their full consequences. You respond slowly, carefully. When you only see part of a pattern, when your view is limited to a small portion of a much larger whole, you naturally misjudge. The farmer understood this principle deeply. Your teacher confirms with evident satisfaction. He recognized that his perspective was always limited, that his understanding could never be complete. What appeared as disaster today contained hidden possibilities he couldn't foresee. What seemed like fortune might create future difficulty through unexpected chains of causation. Only when viewed across longer time, when many more consequences have unfolded over years or decades, can we begin to understand an event more completely. And even then, our understanding remains partial and incomplete, always limited by our position in time and space. This teaching connects directly to our core understanding about why everything happens for a reason. Thich continues, stepping back from the log. When we only see immediate circumstances, when we judge based on limited information and our own preferences, we create suffering through resistance to reality. We demand that events align with our judgments about how things should be. We say this should not be happening, this is wrong, this is unfair. But when we recognize our perspective as inherently limited, we can practice a different approach entirely. We can meet events with curiosity rather than certainty. We can work with what presents itself rather than fighting against it because we think it's wrong or unfair. This doesn't mean being passive, it means being responsive in a wise way. He stands and suggests continuing the walk deeper into the forest, following the stream upward into steeper terrain. The path grows steeper, climbing now rather than descending, requiring more attention to footing. You navigate carefully over wet rocks and roots exposed by the flowing water. As you climb, Thich continues speaking about how this teaching of limited perspective relates to understanding the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha's most foundational teachings about suffering and how to work with it. The first truth simply acknowledges that suffering exists, he explains as you navigate a particularly steep section, pausing to catch breath. Not as pessimism or depression, but as honest recognition of reality. If we pretend suffering doesn't exist, if we deny it or avoid looking at it, we can't address it effectively. We can't work with what we don't acknowledge. But if we acknowledge suffering clearly, if we look at it directly, we can begin working with it wisely. This recognition itself is freedom, the beginning of real understanding. The path levels out into a ridge overlooking the valley below, offering expansive views of layered mountains and forested slopes receding into distant haze, each layer becoming progressively more obscured by distance and atmospheric moisture. You both pause, catching breath from the climb, your legs working harder than they have since arriving. The second noble truth identifies the cause of suffering, Thich continues, turning to gesture toward the valley below, where you can see villages and fields and roads connecting them. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from tanha, often translated as craving or thirst or clinging. This includes the craving for pleasant experiences we want to continue forever, the desperate aversion to unpleasant experiences we're struggling to escape, and the attachment to a sense of permanent separate self that we protect and defend against the world. These three forms of craving, working together, create most of the suffering we experience in daily life. This craving is ultimately based on ignorance, on not understanding the true nature of reality and how everything actually works. When we don't understand that everything happens for reasons according to conditions, Thich explains, standing beside you at the ridge viewpoint, we take experiences personally in harmful ways. A painful event feels like the universe is punishing us specifically, targeting us somehow. A pleasant event feels like reward we deserve based on our supposed superiority. An unwanted change feels like injustice and betrayal. But when we understand dependent origination, when we recognize how causation actually operates, we recognize that events arise from causes and conditions, not from cosmic judgment or fairness or personal reward and punishment. This understanding itself begins to loosen our clinging, to reduce our desperate craving, because we're less invested in demanding reality conform to our limited understanding of how it should work. The third noble truth asserts that it is possible for suffering to end. Thich continues walking slowly along the ridge path. Not that suffering is permanent or inevitable, but that liberation from unnecessary suffering is actually possible. This possibility becomes clearer as we understand the nature of suffering. If suffering comes from our relationship to experience rather than experience itself, then by transforming our relationship, we transform our suffering. If suffering comes from craving and clinging, then by releasing craving, we release suffering. The fourth noble truth outlines the path toward this liberation, your teacher explains. It involves cultivating wisdom about reality as it actually is, developing ethical conduct, and training the mind through practices like meditation. It's not about achieving something new, but recognizing what's already true beneath our habitual distortions. Living according to these truths doesn't mean becoming passive or indifferent. It means becoming more skillfully engaged with reality as it actually is, responding wisely rather than reactively, working with conditions rather than against them. You reach another clearing where a small structure houses what appears to be an ancient stone monument or marker, weathered by centuries of exposure to wind and rain and sun. Beyond it, a faint path suggests this location has been visited regularly for a very long time, probably by countless monks over generations making the same pilgrimage to this spot. Thich suggests sitting here for a while to rest and take in the view. So you settle on the ground facing the vista. In this place, many practitioners over centuries have come to contemplate these same teachings, he observes with evident reverence. They've sat in this same spot, wrestling with the same fundamental questions you're asking right now. This continuity of practice and understanding itself is a profound teaching beyond words. Understanding is not new or invented. It's ancient wisdom that successive generations of sincere practitioners rediscover through their own direct experience and practice. Your role isn't to invent something unprecedented or discover something no one else has known. It's to recognize what's already true about reality, what the Buddha recognized, what countless practitioners since have recognized. Late morning finds you back at the monastery, your mind full from the morning's teachings and the challenging hike back down the mountain path. Thich suggests visiting the monastery library before the midday meal, saying there are texts there that demonstrate these ancient teachings in their original forms, that seeing the words written by practitioners centuries ago adds another dimension to understanding. The library occupies a quiet wing of the main building, shelves lining walls from floor to ceiling, scrolls and manuscripts and books in various languages, representing centuries of accumulated wisdom and practice. An elderly monk working at a desk looks up as you enter, nods respectfully to Tich with genuine reverence, and returns to his careful work copying texts without interrupting your exploration. Your teacher leads you to a particular section where ancient texts are carefully preserved behind glass or in climate-controlled cases, protecting them from humidity and insects and time's decay. He selects a large, worn volume bound in faded cloth, its pages yellowed and brittle, and brings it carefully to a reading table positioned near a window, where natural light falls on its pages. This contains teachings from early Buddhist texts, he explains gently, opening the book with the care one might handle a newborn infant, revealing beautiful calligraphy written by hand on aged paper that has somehow survived centuries. Some of these verses date back nearly 2,000 years, transmitted through countless generations of practitioners. The Buddha's original teachings were preserved through oral tradition initially, monks memorizing and chanting them, then written down eventually in various languages as Buddhism spread across Asia. Different lineages developed different emphases and interpretations, but the core understandings remained remarkably consistent across traditions and centuries. He finds a particular passage and translates it carefully, his voice soft, so as not to disturb other monks working silently in the library. When this exists, that comes to be. With the arising of this, that arises. When this does not exist, that does not come to be. With the cessation of this, that ceases. These simple lines contain the entire teaching of dependent origination, Thich explains, pointing to the words with reverence. In Sanskrit, dependent origination is called pratitya samutpada, literally dependent co-origination or codependent arising. Everything that exists in dependence on conditions. Nothing arises independently or in isolation. This principle operates everywhere throughout reality without exception. A tree depends on seed, soil rich in nutrients, water, sunlight, appropriate temperature, insects for pollination, and countless other conditions, most of which we never see. Remove any major condition and the tree cannot grow. Change the soil composition and the tree's health transforms. A thought depends on prior mental states, incoming sensory input, brain function and neural firing, your particular conditioning from past experiences. Change conditions and different thoughts naturally arise without any forcing needed. He carefully turns more pages with the same reverence, revealing beautiful diagrams illustrating the chain of dependent origination, showing how ignorance leads to conditioning, conditioning leads to consciousness, consciousness leads to form and substance, form leads to sense organs lead to contact, contact leads to sensation, and so on, through an interconnected circle returning finally to ignorance. This circular diagram, Thich explains, pointing to its elegant structure, illustrates how all phenomena are interconnected in a vast web of mutual causation. Nothing exists in isolation. The circle has no beginning point and no end point because any point in time, any beginning, depends on earlier conditions stretching back infinitely. Your birth didn't begin existence, it depends. Dead on your parents' existence and their meeting, which depended on their parents' existence and meeting, stretching back through countless generations and ultimately to the beginning of the universe itself billions of years ago. The practical application, your teacher emphasizes, is that understanding this frees us from feeling trapped by fate or predetermined destiny as if everything is fixed and cannot change. Conditions are constantly changing. New conditions can be consciously established through wise action. Different causes can produce different effects. This means you're never helpless or powerless to influence your life's direction and future, though you also can't control everything through force of will alone. or through demanding reality work your way. Wisdom lies in understanding which conditions you can influence and which lie beyond your control, then responding accordingly with skillful action. They're bringing lunch preparations from the kitchen, you notice as Tik carefully returns the ancient volume to its shelf with evident respect. Let's return for the midday meal, he suggests. Your mind feels full to capacity from this morning's teachings, the farmer's story, the forest walk, the library visit. Yet you sense there's more to come, more layers yet to reveal themselves as you continue practicing and learning, more depths beneath these already profound teachings. The meal feels restorative after the morning's activities. Though physically not strenuous, the mental and emotional engagement of learning has created a kind of tiredness in your body despite having eaten well. Eating mindfully now requires less conscious direction. It's becoming more natural to bring attention to each bite, to notice flavors and textures, and the connection to all the beings who brought this nourishment into existence. After eating, Tik suggests an afternoon exploration he's been planning carefully. There's a particularly important teaching spot he wants to show you, he says mysteriously, suggesting you bring appropriate clothing for a longer walk into the forest. Your body feels ready for it despite the morning's exertion. The path leads again away from the monastery, but in a different direction this time, away from the forested ridge where you hiked this morning, and instead toward lower elevation, following a stream downward into increasingly lush vegetation. The sound of rushing water becomes increasingly prominent as you descend gradually through afternoon light. After perhaps 20 minutes of easy descent, the stream opens into a small pond, formed where the stream bed widened and pools formed over countless seasons of water flow. The water is crystal clear, and you can see stones covered with moss and small creatures moving along the bottom, fish and insects going about their existence. Lotus plants float on the surface with remarkable grace, their large leaves perfectly adapted to water. Their roots extend, ending deep into the mud below. Several large fish glide in the deeper water with efficient movements. Tik settles onto a smooth rock beside the pond, weathered by centuries of wind and rain, inviting you to sit beside him on the cool stone. The lotus is an essential symbol in Buddhism, he begins, gesturing toward the floating plants. It grows in mud at the bottom of ponds, in murky water full of decomposing organic material and nutrients released from death and decay. Yet through some extraordinary process, it rises up through that mud and water, eventually blooming above the surface in perfect beauty and purity, unsoiled by the muck from which it emerged. This symbolizes enlightenment arising not from escape, but from working wisely within ordinary suffering and difficulty. It teaches that our awakening doesn't require abandoning ordinary life or escaping to some perfect place, but working wisely within it, exactly as we find it. The Buddha taught that enlightenment isn't some distant mystical state, unreachable by ordinary people like you and me. It's available through understanding your own direct experience, recognizing how phenomena arise and pass, working consciously with your own mind and conditioning. Look at this pond, Tik suggests, gesturing toward the water with a sweeping arm movement. What do you see as you observe it carefully? You describe the clear water, the lotus plants floating, the fish, the stones below covered with moss, the way light reflects off the surface. Now imagine something for me, he instructs. Pick up a stone and imagine dropping it into the center of the pond. You locate a suitable pebble at your feet and drop it deliberately into the calm water away from the plants. Ripples spread outward in perfect concentric circles, expanding from the point of impact, expanding gradually until they touch the edges of the pond and bounce back toward the center. Every part of the water's surface is affected by the single action of this one stone dropping. This too is the teaching directly observable. Every action you take creates ripples, extending far beyond what you can immediately see or predict or measure. Every word you speak affects others in ways you may never fully know or see. Every thought you generate creates conditions within your own mind that influence future thoughts and actions and emotional states. This is karma, the law of action and consequence operating continuously. He reaches down and picks up his own stone and holds it thoughtfully before dropping it into the pond away from where your stone rippled. His stone creates new circles that intersect with the circles still moving from your stone, creating complex interference patterns as they overlap and interact. Waves cancelling each other in some places and reinforcing in others. When multiple beings take action simultaneously, as happens constantly in the world, their ripples interact with each other, creating complex effects that become increasingly difficult to predict or trace back to their individual sources. Yet the principle remains constant and true. Actions create consequences. Causes produce effects. When we understand this deeply, not just intellectually but in our bones, we become more conscious, us about the actions we take and the causes we set in motion through our speech and conduct. The afternoon light begins shifting again toward that particular golden quality. It develops as evening approaches, the sun beginning its descent toward the western mountains beyond the monastery. Your teacher suggests moving to a sheltered spot for deeper meditation practice before returning to the monastery for evening activities and rest. He leads you carefully away from the pond to a small natural shelter formed by large rocks, creating a protected space where the ground is dry and relatively flat, perfect for extended sitting. Here we'll practice together for the final hours before returning, he says, settling onto the earth with surprising ease for his age and gesturing for you to do the same on ground beside him. Today's meditation focuses on investigating the actual conditions supporting your experience moment by moment. Thich instructs once you're both seated comfortably with proper posture. Begin by bringing attention to your breath and body as before, creating a stable foundation of awareness. You follow these now familiar instructions, quickly establishing calm focus as your practice develops consistency through multiple sessions today. After several minutes of settling into stillness, your teacher continues with particular clarity. Now bring your attention to any physical sensation present in this moment. Perhaps discomfort from sitting on the hard ground. Perhaps warmth from the afternoon sun still present. Whatever sensations are present in your body, bring full awareness to them. As you observe closely, notice how sensations aren't solid, static, unchanging experiences. Their process is constantly changing and transforming. An itch that intensifies then fades. Heat that spreads across your back or localizes in specific areas. Pressure that varies and shifts as your attention focuses or wanders. Notice what conditions support these sensations, Thich instructs. The itch depends on skin sensation and neural firing, and your attention focusing on it. The warmth depends on sun position and your particular clothing and the air temperature. Change any condition, and the sensation transforms completely. This direct observation teaches the principle we've been discussing intellectually all day. Here you're experiencing dependent origination directly through your own sensations, rather than just thinking about it abstractly. Expand to include emotions present in your awareness right now, he continues after several minutes of observing physical sensations. What feelings are actually here beneath your conscious thoughts? You discover a mixture of different feelings. Interest in the practice continuing. Slight discomfort from sitting on hard ground for extended periods. Curiosity about what comes next in your monastery stay. Beneath everything else, a kind of contentment or peace that wasn't present in your ordinary life before arriving. Notice how each emotion arises, supported by specific conditions. Your interest depends on the teaching and your openness to learning. Your discomfort depends on the hard ground and particular sitting posture. Your contentment depends on the peaceful environment and the permission to rest from daily demands. Finally, bring awareness to your thoughts. Your teacher guides with particular gentleness. Watch them arise in the flow of your consciousness as they naturally occur. A thought about the evening meal waiting back at the monastery, a memory fragment from this morning's forest walk, a question about something he said earlier about the farmer. Each thought appears in consciousness, exists for a moment or few moments, then dissolves to make way for the next one. Watch how new thoughts replace old thoughts in constant succession, like clouds moving across the sky of your mind. Watch how your particular conditioning, your past experiences, your current state of mind from the day's activities, all support and determine which thoughts arise. Try to observe without engaging with them, without following them into their stories, simply witnessing the process of mind thinking, rather than becoming lost inside your thoughts and their narratives. The meditation continues in silence for what feels like an hour, or perhaps longer, time becoming fluid and unmeasurable. You sit in the natural shelter formed by rocks while the afternoon sun gradually shifts its position, creating changing patterns of light and shadow across the ground that move imperceptibly yet visibly. At some point, the distinction between observer and observed begins to blur slightly at the edges. You're aware of physical sensations arising and passing, emotions transforming, thoughts flowing, yet simultaneously the awareness itself seems to be the ground from which everything emerges and into which everything dissolves and returns. There's a quality of spaciousness to your awareness that wasn't present before, a sense of vastness. It's as though your usual sense of self as a separate solid entity has expanded significantly, or become more permeable and transparent, less solid than it normally feels when you're caught in its grip. When the bell rings signaling time to return for evening meal and activities, you transition gradually back to ordinary awareness of the shelter and the monastery beyond, and your body. Standing requires care and attention, as your legs have gone somewhat numb from sitting on the hard ground, stiff and requiring careful movement. But this too feels like part of the teaching being experienced directly, this recognition that even physical discomfort and numbness passes and transforms gradually when you shift your relationship to it from resistance to simple awareness. The path back to the monastery feels different now, your awareness altered by the extended meditation in the natural shelter. Your legs carry you forward with automatic efficiency, while your mind remains somehow still, observing the movement without getting caught in its mechanics. The forest path showing itself with surprising clarity, each stone and root visible despite the approaching evening shadows. Other monks pass you on the path carrying supplies or returning from their own afternoon activities, each nodding in quiet acknowledgement without the distraction of conversation. The bell's echo still seems to hang in the air somehow, resonating through your chest with a quality that words cannot quite capture. Even the bird calls around you now feel less like distractions and more like part of the soundscape you're moving through, appreciated rather than resisted. Thick walks beside you in silence, allowing the teachings to settle into your bones rather than piling more explanation onto what you've already received. The monastery appears ahead as the path descends toward the courtyard, its buildings glowing softly in the golden afternoon light that makes everything appear sacred somehow, as though this simple place has always been sacred and only now with quieted mind can you perceive it. Monks are already moving toward the dining hall, preparing for the evening meal with practiced efficiency. Your teacher suggests finding quiet time before eating to let the afternoon's profound meditation fully integrate into your awareness, so you both pause at the edge of the courtyard, sitting on a low bench overlooking the garden where morning felt impossibly instant despite only occurring hours earlier. The garden itself seems to have shifted slightly from your first visit days ago. Flowers you didn't notice before now reveal themselves in subtle hues, their colours more vivid perhaps due to how your perception has been sharpened by meditation and presence. The stone pathways appear both ancient and newly created simultaneously, as though they've been here forever, providing stable ground for countless practitioners, and are also being created anew in this very moment through the movement of feet across them over generations. Each footstep wears the stone slightly, contributing to its transformation across decades and centuries. You watch a butterfly land on a flowering plant, its wings opening and closing with hypnotic rhythm in the afternoon light, seemingly unaware of or utterly unconcerned with whether it's observed or not. It pursues its own business with complete indifference to your presence or approval. This too is part of the teaching, you realize. Nothing here is performing for your benefit or requiring your approval to exist. Everything unfolds according to its own nature and the conditions supporting that nature. You could be present for this moment or not, and the butterfly would continue its business either way. The flower would bloom and fade whether anyone perceived it or not. The stone pathway would remain, worn smooth by countless feet, its ancient solidity continuing whether you valued it or not. I want to share one more story before you depart tomorrow, Thiek says quietly, his voice carrying just enough to reach your ears. This is a teaching that directly addresses how limiting perspective prevents us from recognizing what truly serves our development and growth. The story concerns a young student of meditation who became frustrated with his practice, believing his teacher was deliberately creating obstacles preventing his progress. You listen carefully, sensing this story will address something you need to understand before returning to your regular life and its inevitable challenges. There was a meditation master, Thiek begins, looking toward the garden where monks move about completing evening tasks, working with unhurried purpose among the flowers and stones. He taught in a monastery much like this one, accepting students who came seeking the path toward enlightenment. One particularly dedicated student studied with him for many years, practicing daily meditation with sincere effort and genuine devotion. This student would wake before dawn to practice, would sit through the day, would meditate into late evening hours. Yet the student seemed always to struggle, always to encounter difficulties in his practice. He would sit for meditation only to have the loudest bird calls disturb his concentration. When he attempted practice during the night hours, other monks in adjacent rooms seemed to create noise precisely when he began settling into deep states. When he tried practicing in the early morning before others woke, the wind would rise dramatically, creating sounds that pulled his attention away. The student grew increasingly frustrated, eventually approaching the master with genuine anger, his face red with indignation. "Why do you place these obstacles in my way?" he demanded, his voice trembling with emotion. "Every time I begin to progress with my practice, something disrupts it. I see other students advancing while I remain stuck. It feels as though you deliberately create these hindrances to prevent my enlightenment. You don't want me to succeed." The master listened calmly, without becoming defensive or dismissive of the student's genuine distress, then invited the student to sit with him in the meditation hall. They sat together in silence for a full hour, while the afternoon gradually transformed into evening, light slowly fading outside the tall windows. When they finished, the master asked gently, "During our practice just now, what happened?" The student paused, considering honestly. "Nothing happened," he finally replied. "The hall was perfectly quiet, no distractions, just silence and my breath and your presence beside me." The master nodded with evident compassion for the student's struggle. "Everything you called obstacle before was actually a teaching perfectly suited to your development at that moment," he explained carefully. "The bird calls taught you about the difference between hearing and the mind's reactivity to sound. The noise from other monks taught you that peace doesn't depend on external conditions being perfect or arranged according to your preferences. The wind taught you about the impermanence of all phenomena and how circumstances constantly change, how nothing remains stable or controllable. Each thing you called an obstacle was actually the teaching manifesting exactly as you needed it. Without encountering those difficulties and learning to remain present with them rather than resisting them, you would still be seeking enlightenment in some imagined future moment, never recognizing that it's available through working skillfully with what's actually here. Your frustration came not from the obstacles themselves, but from your insistence that conditions be different than they were, your resistance to reality as it unfolded. Thich pauses at this point in the story, letting it settle into you like rain soaking into earth, like understanding seeping gradually into consciousness through the pores of direct experience. The master is not creating the obstacles, he explains, though I sense you've already recognized this truth. The student's mind, his own conditioning and habitual expectations, creates the obstacles through insisting reality should be different from what it actually is. The teacher is simply pointing this out through the student's direct experience, showing him how his own mind creates suffering. Does this teaching touch something in you? Your teacher asks gently. Looking at you with evident care, you recognize immediately how often you approach your own practice and life with this exact pattern. Encountering difficulty and immediately wishing it were different, resisting what's actually present, imagining some perfect future moment when conditions finally align perfectly, so you can begin genuine practice or happiness or peace. You nod slowly, feeling the teaching penetrate deeper than intellectual understanding into something more fundamental within you. The story addresses a pattern you've lived with for years, a habitual way of relating to experience that hasn't served you well. The evening meal follows, and you find yourself eating with even greater presence than before, recognizing how each sensation, each flavor, each moment of nourishment represents countless conditions having aligned to create this experience. The simple soup warming your belly, its earthiness nourishing you in ways commercial food never has. The bread sustaining your body, its texture and taste appreciated fully for perhaps the first time in your life. The tea settling your digestion, its warmth spreading through your chest with surprising comfort. All of it occurring according to natural laws of cause and effect operating, regardless of whether you're aware of them or not. The farmer who grew these plants months earlier under sun and rain. The merchants who transported them. The cooks who prepared them with care. The entire lineage of human and natural activity compressed into this simple meal. After eating and the mindful cleaning of bowls, the bell rings again, calling monks to the final meditation session of the day, the one that typically extends into the evening hours as many practitioners remain in the hall late into the night, creating a field of collective practice. For this final meditation of your stay, your teacher says, as the hall fills with monks, settling into their positions with practiced efficiency, we'll practice together one last time in this supported environment. Tomorrow you'll return to the complexity of your regular life with its competing demands and distractions, its noise and hurry and endless tasks. Tonight we sit together, using this community's collective presence to deepen what you've discovered through these days of practice. The connection between your understanding and the silent presence of other practitioners around you will support your awareness in ways difficult to describe. The hall settles into profound silence, each person arranging themselves on their cushion with the familiarity that comes from practice, from repetition, from the body remembering what the conscious mind might not directly recall. Begin by establishing your foundation of awareness. Thich instructs once everyone has settled into stillness, your breath, your body, your present moment. Create stability through gentle attention, rather than forcing or straining against what arises. You follow these instructions from now familiar repetition, your mind settling quickly into calm focus that would have taken hours of struggle just days earlier, before arriving at the monastery. Your body remembers this peace, remembers the possibility of stillness even as your ordinary mind doubts and questions and judges. The boundary between you and the others in the room seems to dissolve slightly, as though all the practitioners are breathing together, their awareness creating a unified field. Now that you have this stability of awareness, your teacher continues his voice barely audible, yet somehow carrying throughout the entire space. Reflect on everything you've encountered during these days here, not analyzing or thinking about it intellectually, but simply allowing memories and impressions to arise in your consciousness while maintaining awareness of them, like watching clouds move across the sky. The teachings about dependent origination and how all phenomena arise from causes and conditions. The forest walks where nature demonstrated these truths directly. The farmer's story about limited perspective and how our judgments create suffering. The meditation practices and what they revealed about your own mind. The meals eaten mindfully and their connection to the entire world. The community of practitioners moving through their daily lives with intentional presence. Simply allow these to surface, without grasping or rejecting any of them. You sit with these memories and impressions, allowing the practice to organize itself without your conscious direction. Certain teachings surface repeatedly, demanding your attention through their power and resonance. The recognition that everything happens for reasons according to conditions, that nothing is random even when it appears chaotic. The understanding that your own perspective is always limited, that you cannot see the full consequences of events stretching across time and space. The possibility of working with resistance rather than fighting against it, of cooperating with reality rather than demanding it be different. The way peace emerges not from controlling circumstances, but from changing your relationship to them, from releasing your desperate demand for perfection. Your mind's habitual patterns around judgment and blame and demanding reality be different gradually reveal themselves with surprising clarity when observed through the lens of this practice, like clouds becoming visible before rain. After what might be 90 minutes or might be 3 hours, time becoming truly unmeasurable in deep meditation, as the distinction between clock time and experiential time dissolves, Thich very gradually begins offering guidance back toward ordinary awareness. Let these recognitions settle into the background of your consciousness, he instructs gently, his voice carrying both kindness and wisdom born of decades of practice. Not forgetting them, but allowing them to integrate gradually rather than grasping at them as achievements. Tomorrow, when you return to your regular life with its different conditions and demands, these understandings will continue working within you, whether you're consciously thinking about them or not. The human mind and heart continue processing these teachings at levels beneath conscious awareness, integrating wisdom through your lived experience rather than through intellectual effort alone. Very slowly, begin expanding your awareness outward from the breath and body in gentle ripples. Notice first your body on the cushion, the points of contact with the ground beneath you where cushion meets floor, where your sit bones press against the cushion, where your hands rest. Notice the sensations present, the particular way your body feels after extended sitting, any numbness or ache or ease. The air in the room around you, its temperature and quality, the way it feels moving through your nostrils with each breath, and the subtle movements of the collective breathing of all the practitioners around you, creating an almost imperceptible flow. The presence of other practitioners still in stillness, their silent support and shared intention creating a field that sustains and supports you. A practice in ways you cannot fully comprehend. The building itself, containing and supporting your practice. These walls and roof that have held countless hours of meditation from countless practitioners across generations. The entire monastery, with its routines and teachings and community, and the lineage of practice extending back centuries. The mountains surrounding the monastery, ancient and protective, their rock foundations supporting everything that exists within and upon them. The wider world beyond the mountains, all of it interconnected seamlessly, all of it interconnected through the vast web of dependent origination that you've been learning to perceive directly throughout these days of practice and teaching and contemplation. When you're ready, open your eyes gradually, allowing your pupils to adjust to the soft light of the meditation hall. with its oil lamps creating gentle illumination throughout the space. You complete the transition in your own timing, some practitioners remaining in meditation while others begin moving quietly, respectfully, toward the doors leading to the monastery's sleeping quarters. There's no rush, no schedule requiring immediate movement. Each person transitions according to their own rhythm and capacity. Your final morning arrives with the bell's call before dawn, consciousness surfacing from sleep with surprising clarity and something that might be described as calm joy. You lie briefly in the darkness, feeling both grateful for the night's deep rest and reluctant to leave this sanctuary that has become somehow familiar, despite being so recently a complete stranger when you arrived. The wooden bracelet from your teacher rests beside your sleeping mat, and you slip it onto your wrist before rising, establishing 3 conscious breaths to mark this final morning, setting an intention to carry the teachings forward with you into changed circumstances. The courtyard shows signs of your departure already beginning. Your few belongings have been gathered and arranged neatly, the simple guest quarters cleared of your presence as though you were never here. Other monks go about their morning routines without particular attention to your leaving, each focused on their own practice and duties as though your week here has been completely normal and ordinary, nothing requiring extraordinary notice or elaborate farewell. This ordinariness itself is a teaching, you realize with sudden clarity. Your extraordinary internal transformation doesn't require external recognition or ceremony or special attention. It simply happens through sincere practice and genuine engagement with what's offered, whether anyone else notices or validates it or not. Thick appears as you finish your simple breakfast of rice and vegetables, suggesting one final walk through the monastery gardens before your transportation arrives to carry you back toward your regular life. The gardens show subtle changes since your first walk through them days earlier when everything felt new and strange. Some flowers have opened fully and brilliantly, while others have begun to fade and lose their petals gradually. Plants have grown slightly, their stems extending toward the light. The whole garden demonstrates with perfect clarity the principle of impermanence that has become central to your understanding. Nothing remains static. Everything continuously transforms according to changing conditions. The earth beneath your feet has absorbed countless footsteps from Janera, tons of practitioners. The air carries different qualities at different times of day and seasons of the year. At the monastery's front gate, Tich stands with you both physically and symbolically at the threshold between retreat and return, between the sanctuary you're leaving and the world you're about to enter. The gate itself is ancient, its wood weathered by centuries of sun and rain and the passage of countless people through its frame coming to study and learn and depart, changed in subtle ways. Monks stand in the background continuing their morning tasks, the monastery's life continuing regardless of individual arrivals and departures. Before you go, he says, place your hand on your heart. Feel your heartbeat there, the steady rhythm that has continued throughout your stay here, throughout your entire life without interruption, whether you were paying attention or not. This heartbeat is not your achievement. It's not something you accomplish through effort or willpower or perfect practice or special knowledge. It simply continues according to the natural conditions supporting life in your body, requiring nothing from you but your acceptance and allowing it to do its work. Your practice works the same way, ultimately. You don't achieve enlightenment through straining effort or accumulating knowledge like collecting possessions. You recognize what's already true through releasing your resistance to reality and working skillfully with what is, understanding it deeply in your bones. This is the secret that the Buddha discovered and taught, and that practitioners across generations have verified through their own direct experience. Remember that everything happening in your life, every circumstance you encounter, happens for reasons according to conditions. This understanding is available to you always, whether circumstances feel pleasant or difficult, whether you're remembering it consciously or not. It will work within you, even when you forget, continuing to teach you through the flow of your experience. The journey back to your regular life feels like moving between worlds, the complexity of modern surroundings gradually replacing the monastery's simplicity. Traffic noise, blaring horns, advertising billboards competing for attention. People rushing with apparent urgency through their days as though time itself were pursuing them. All of it feels simultaneously foreign and strangely familiar. You notice yourself observing without harsh judgment, recognizing how all of it arises from specific causes and conditions, how each person's frantic actions reflect their own conditioning and understanding, and circumstances shaped by culture and necessity and fear. The monastery's teachings continue working within you despite this dramatic environmental shift, like seeds planted gradually beginning to grow roots through the soil of your consciousness. 3 months pass, and you find yourself still practicing daily, integrating the understanding into ordinary activities with surprising consistency despite the complexity of regular life. Your meditation practice continues, though not in the quiet, supported environment of the monastery, but amid household noise and competing demands, and all the friction of ordinary life, the noise of neighbors, the pull of electronic devices, the mental pressure of work deadlines, and personal responsibilities. Yet you've found ways to practice mindfully during daily tasks, transforming them from obstacles to spiritual work into opportunities for presence itself, recognizing that presence is possible anywhere with the right intention. Walking to work one morning, you notice how each step happens according to conditions, how the ground supports you, how gravity holds you, how muscles coordinate through learned patterns from thousands of previous walks. Sitting in a business meeting the next day, you notice how frustration is arising, but you're not identified with it, rather observing it like a cloud passing through the sky of consciousness, recognizing the conditions supporting the frustration without needing to act on it immediately. Washing dishes one evening, full awareness suddenly crystallizes the entire teaching in a moment of crystal clarity, like a bell struck and resonating through your entire being. Everything happening for reasons according to conditions. Your hands washing the plate under warm water, the warm water heated through energy systems depending on infrastructure and resources built over decades by countless workers. The plate soiled through eating food itself, dependent on countless agricultural workers and distribution factors and natural conditions, seasons and weather, the cooperation of nature and human effort. Your very presence at the sink resulting from myriad previous decisions, years of habit patterns, economic circumstances that allow you to have a home, and dishes, and the time to wash them mindfully. This ordinary moment transforms into direct experience of profound truth that was always available, but only now recognized through practice and presence and the teachings received in the monastery. Difficulties still arise in your regular life, with inevitable regularity, challenging circumstances that might have created despair or reactive resistance before your monastery stay. But something fundamental has shifted in how you meet them now. Instead of immediately demanding reality be different than it is, you pause and investigate what conditions created the situation and what response would create more beneficial conditions moving forward. A work project fails despite careful planning and effort, but rather than personalizing the failure and taking it as evidence of your own inadequacy, you recognize it as the natural unfolding of countless factors beyond anyone's complete control or foresight. A relationship becomes strained and difficult, but instead of blame and resentment, you perceive how both people are responding to their own conditioning and circumstances and limitations, deserving compassion rather than judgment. The wooden bracelet from your teacher remains on your wrist, its simple wooden beads worn smooth by your constant contact with them, its presence serving as a continuous reminder of the teachings. Whenever you notice it, you take one conscious breath, acknowledging that in this very moment, everything happening, including your awareness itself, manifests through causes and conditions. this practice of mindfulness becomes gradually woven into your daily life. Not as something requiring special effort or perfect conditions, but as natural presence with what's actually arising. You notice improvement in your relationships, greater patience with others and with yourself, increased capacity to be present even during disagreement or frustration. The understanding deepens gradually over these months and becomes less a concept you intellectually grasp and more a lived reality that continuously illuminates experience. You haven't achieved some permanent, enlightened state where difficulties vanish and life becomes effortless and perfectly pleasant, but something more valuable has occurred than the fantasy of problem-free existence. You've discovered that peace and wisdom aren't found in controlling circumstances through force of will, but in changing your relationship to whatever circumstances arise. Everything happens for a reason according to conditions. A year after leaving the monastery, you sit in your home during a quiet evening, reflecting on what has changed and what has remained consistent. Your life's external circumstances haven't transformed dramatically. You still work at the same job, though perhaps with more presence and less reactivity. Your relationships continue with their mix of connection and difficulty, their particular texture and challenges. Your body still ages, still experiences discomfort, still requires sleep and nourishment. In many objective ways, your life looks similar to how it was before the monastery. Yet the subjective experience of that same life has shifted fundamentally, almost imperceptibly at first, then becoming increasingly obvious as months pass. You notice how seldom you fall into despair anymore when facing challenges. The human capacity for resilience and adaptation that was always there becomes more accessible now that you're not fighting so hard against reality. You notice how the need to blame others or yourself seems to evaporate when you understand that all actions arise from conditions. That blame is simply another form of resistance to what is. You notice how judgments still arise in your mind, but they feel lighter, less solid, less like absolute truth about the world, and more like passing mental events that don't require your identification or agreement. The wooden bracelet has become so much a part of your wrist that you rarely notice it consciously anymore. Yet its simple presence continues to remind you when your awareness slips back into habitual reactivity. The practical application of the teaching extends deeper than you initially imagined. When facing anxiety about future possibilities, you notice the teaching pointing out that you're creating suffering in the present moment through resistance to what hasn't even happened yet. When guilt about past mistakes surfaces, the understanding that everything happened according to conditions, that you did the best you could with your understanding at that time, brings a quality of compassion towards yourself and others. When experiencing loss, the recognition of impermanence doesn't eliminate grief, but it transforms grief from something that feels like the destruction of meaning into something more like the natural motion of life itself, the constant flow of arising and ceasing. This truth, recognized deeply through direct experience rather than merely believed intellectually, brings liberation not from life's challenges themselves, but from the unnecessary suffering created through resisting what is and demanding reality conform to your limited preferences and understanding of how things should be. You've discovered that the path isn't about escape, but about meeting existence as it actually is, with clarity and skill and compassion. And this recognition, this growing clarity about how existence actually operates, transforms not just single moments, but the entire fabric of how you move through the world. When you encounter someone struggling with difficulty, you recognize them with compassion, knowing their actions arise from their conditioning, just as yours arise from yours. When you succeed at something, pride in the achievement tempers with understanding that success resulted from countless conditions aligning, not from personal superiority. The final teaching that your monastery experience continues to offer is perhaps the simplest and most profound, worth returning to repeatedly throughout your life as understanding deepens through practice. Everything happens for a reason according to conditions. Nothing is random. Nothing is wasted. every experience, from the most delightful to the most painful, contains teaching if approached with awareness rather than closed with judgment and defensive reaction. This doesn't make suffering good or desirable, something to seek out or celebrate, but it fundamentally transforms your relationship to suffering from something to be fought against and denied into something that can be met and understood and worked with skillfully. You learn to accept what cannot be changed, while working to change what can be transformed through wise action. And in that fundamental shift of relationship from resistance to wise engagement, the unnecessary suffering created by your mind's resistance begins to dissolve gradually, leaving only the natural pain that comes with being human in a changing world full of impermanence and loss and the constant transformation of all phenomena. This natural pain, felt fully without the amplification of resistance, becomes bearable, becomes part of the texture of existence that you can hold with compassion for yourself and others. This is the Buddhist secret that truly changes how you see life. Not a belief to adopt or reject, not a philosophy to memorize for impressing others, but a recognition of reality that grows clearer the more you pay attention to how existence actually operates in each moment. The teaching is available in every moment of your experience if you remember to look for it. The steady heartbeat, the breath moving in and out, the sensations present, the emotions arising and passing, the thoughts emerging and dissolving. Everything offers teaching about the nature of existence. And that teaching is simple and consistent and available and true whether you understand it or not, just as gravity operates whether you comprehend it or not. The Buddhist secret is that you can discover this truth for yourself, through your own direct experience, rather than believing it on faith or authority. This is why the Buddha said, "Don't believe what I tell you. Don't accept teachings on authority. Test them in your own experience. Investigate reality for yourself. And when you do, when you pay close attention to how things actually operate, you discover that everything happens for a reason according to conditions, and this recognition, lived deeply and continuously, transforms not just isolated moments, but the entire way you move through the precious and finite and constantly changing experience of being human on this earth."